Hello, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, and I was on a podcast recently with Fantavision, and during our talks, I mentioned a Pinball FX game I was going to buy as a joke. The Garfield pinball table, because Garfield Kart Furious Racing is a terrible game we occasionally break out for the memes. I also mentioned that I am absolutely going to have to buy the new table, which is the Williams Star Trek The Next Generation table, which you might have played in a real arcade. And I'm a huge Trek nerd who constantly rewatches The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and enjoys the current resurgence of the series with Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds. Now, it has been a while since I have indulged in video game pinball, so it was news to me that Pinball FX specifically has pissed off the fan base by making them buy the tables they had already bought in previous Pinball FX games. In fact, one of the first things I noticed when I decided I wanted to take a look at Pinball FX was that one of my favorite viewers had posted a negative review, which almost word for word restated what Fantavision complained to me about as well. Friend of the channel, Laner's Mind, wrote, "I am so confused. Each time there's an update to the game, you have to rebuy the tables that you already own again. Want Doctor Strange? Well, the old version and the new version are both listed, so you better make sure you buy the right one, or you can just get the Doctor Strange pack and get the table on this game and the old game by paying more money. What is going on with this?" Top it off with some of the original tables they own the rights to being held back for DLC, even if you own them from past games. This will be the third time I'm buying the same tables from past versions. Alright, so here is the problem. Pinball FX is a free-to-play game that sells tables as DLC. Pinball FX 3 is the previous free-to-play game, despite the name confusingly having a 3 in it, while the newer version of the game is not numbered. And the series was previously also known as Zen Pinball. And the tables from that game are also being resold in Pinball FX 3 and again the newer Pinball FX, which came out in 2023. I can see why fans of the series are pissed off because there are 49 different DLC for Pinball FX alone, ranging from between $5 to $15, and that is a fuckload of money. There's also some kind of scummy, weird microtransaction thing going on where instead of buying the tables outright, you can buy coins to rent the tables, with the problem being gaining access to most of the tables using this method will cost you $100 a year, and that's a little less than half of what it costs to buy all the tables outright, which is about $240. To be fair, on the other side of that, there are events which allow you to play on tables you do not own. These events have limited entries, so you might be able to play the table 3 to 5 times. You might be playing the one-ball score contest, which won't give you much time on the table, especially if you're unfamiliar with it, but you might get one of the 5-minute score challenges, which will allow you to play unlimited balls for 5 minutes straight. So you might be able to play that table for 25 minutes total. This was the last thing I looked at, and only 12% of players have the achievement for placing any score in an official event. So I feel like not a lot of people might know that this is a way to access tables you didn't buy and to earn in-game trinkets for your pinball room. And I weirdly enjoyed the fact it was a competitive event that kept telling me I was beating other players' scores. It felt good. Luckily, I haven't given a shit about video game pinball since the TurboGrafx 16 was still new, and since I've been sleeping on the genre, I never purchased any of the previous tables in the previous Pinball FX games, so I didn't have to rebuy anything that I had purchased previously. And there was a sale going on, so I grabbed a small handful of tables I'm going to talk about for this review. First off, I immediately remembered the reason I didn't buy any tables for Pinball FX and its predecessors. For me, the ball felt a little bit too heavy and the physics didn't really feel correct for me. The series is proud of its realistic physics engines, and since they recreate a lot of old Williams tables, I have to believe them that their physics engine is solid, and the problem is actually just with me. I'm going to have to play the game for a while to get used to the weight and physics, since I prefer what I would call arcade pinball. Now, whereas old school pinball machines are a physical game with a ball and springs and shit, arcade pinball is similar to arcade racing in my mind, where the physics are less realistic and more geared towards fun instead of simulation. Now, I played a lot of actual pinball as a kid of the 80s, and I picked up one of the tables that used to be in my local bowling alley, Bride of Pinbot, to see how it feels in Pinball FX. I planned on checking out Dr. Strange because Laynor had specifically mentioned that table, so I assume it might be one of his favorites. But a funny thing happened, and one thing led to another, because there was a sale going on, and there are bundles, and I think I own most, if not all, of the Marvel tables now, and I love the Borderlands series, and that table was cheap, so I got it, and I wound up picking up all the Star Wars tables related to the original trilogy, because both the newer trilogies can suck my balls. I now own way too many tables for a game I am not yet sure I even like. I'm not really going to comment on the table physics further because other people seem to be able to play the game perfectly fine, and because I'm terrible at this particular pinball series, I'm going to have to watch videos about the tables to see what interesting things they have to offer. I will be reviewing Demon's Tilt and the newer Xeno Tilt pinball games because they are fucking awesome, and there's your review right there. Fucking awesome. Now, these are both the arcade-style pinball machines that I mentioned, and I don't totally suck at them. So look for those videos. They should be coming out about the same time this one does. Editor's note from the future! I've played a lot more Pinball FX, for research, and I'm starting to learn the physics. I'm kind of addicted to the series now. Okay, so right off the bat, these tables look fantastic. The store page videos and screenshots don't do them any justice at all. We'll look at some specific tables from different franchises like the aforementioned Marvel and Star Wars, and the actual pinball game I played in real life. But again, I'm not talking about Garfield here, because Garfield is special. It needs to be discussed in its own special video. All of the other tables have animated characters that are triggered by various targets and ramps, and tables that have stories that progress as you hit the specific triggers on the table. Dr. Strange, for instance, is looking for the Book of Vishtanti. When you hit the correct targets, he will locate the book, and then when you hit the next trigger, Baron Mordo will try to stop Dr. Strange, and they will wind up moving to the bottom of the table, and they will fight over the book. And then after he defeats Mordo, he tries to get the book, and they wind up in another magical duel, all while Shumo Gorath hangs menacingly over the top of the ramps. And also, as you progress the story, you will wind up facing the Nightmare King and Dormammu, and if this is one of Laynor's favorite tables, I can really see why he's pissed off he has to buy it all over again. It's pretty awesome. The voice lines are great, the sound effects are great, the table looks cool as shit, but I feel like this is literally the same exact table in Pinball FX and Pinball FX 3. The Spider-Man table also looks amazing. I grew up with this character. I watched as Spider-Man proved cartoons based on comic books could be successful in the early 90s, leading to the awesome 1997 X-Men cartoon. And then in the year 2000, X-Men proved movies based on comic books could be successful, and Spider-Man came along and proved they could be better, because that movie absolutely crushed it at the box office and became one of the first films to earn $100 million in its opening weekend. And it looks like Spider-Man and the X-Men proved comic books could be successful pinball tables because they both look amazing. And again, both of these tables are in Pinball FX3, the older one, and they cost the same if you purchase them for either game, which kind of blows my mind because you might expect the older versions would now cost less to encourage the purchase of both versions, since there are tables that are exclusive to Pinball FX and Pinball FX3, and also Pinball FX2, which actually gives a reason for players to download and play those older games. So, would I recommend Pinball FX3? I think it's an absolute must for pinball fans. I stated that I prefer the arcade-style pinball games like Alien Crush and Devil Crush, but in preparing for this review and shooting footage, I have come to really appreciate the FX original tables a lot more. The original tables are the ones that are made specifically for Pinball FX, as opposed to what I call classic tables, which are the pinball machines that actually existed in real life and could be played in your local arcade. The Star Trek table is one of those real-life machines, and they just feel different to play from the FX original tables. But I'm such a Star Trek nerd that I will learn to love how the Williams tables feel, because there's just no way I am not playing the shit out of Star Trek pinball. I have played a lot more of the Doctor Strange table, and I figured out how to open some of the boss battles, and learning how the table worked made me want to play more, to figure out how to beat those encounters, which means learning how to make specific shots, and which means getting better at the table in general, which leads to figuring out how to trigger even more special events. That is the cycle of addiction. Doctor Strange is a really cool table, as are all of the Marvel tables, and I absolutely love the Star Wars tables as well, especially the Starfighter Assault table, where you pick to side with either the Empire or the Rebels, which enables different audio clips, changes the table effects so you're shooting at TIE Fighters as the Rebels, and you're shooting at the X-Wings if you are the Empire, and you even launch from different sides of the table. There are so many cool tables, but by far the best table I've tried so far was the Infinity Gauntlet, which is inspired by the comic version of Infinity War, where Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock recruit heroes to help while holding off Thanos and his Infinity Gauntlet. This table has some of the best visual effects I've seen yet. And also fantastic table interactions, like the time Thanos decided to fuck with me by turning the table upside down, which I actually managed to capture while filming, and holy shit, that was wild, trying to play upside down like that. I imagine there are many amazing experiences like this in this huge collection of shockingly fantastic tables, and that's why I'm saying Pinball FX is a must-buy. Get the tables that look good to you when they are on sale, and for the love of God, do not buy the stupid bullshit coin to rent the tables. And honestly, it seems like Lehner may have gotten over his initial anger at having to repurchase the same tables again, because the last time I saw him on stream, he seemed to really love Pinball FX, which makes sense because you get the most upset at the things you love when they disappoint you. I think Pinball FX is a slam dunk, but it's not the only pinball series on the market. Pinball tables are every bit as complex as any video game. The tables have a story, they have quests, they have puzzles that need to be figured out by learning how to trigger events and gaining the skill to make the shots you need when you get the opportunity. And you can play a good table for hundreds of hours, exactly like you would Skyrim or Fallout, which also just happen to be pinball tables in Pinball FX3, along with Doom, because why the hell not? While I had Laner in my stream, I introduced him to 2 games I noticed he hadn't bought or wishlisted, and those games are getting their own videos on my channel, so go watch the reviews for Demon Tilt and Xenotilt, which are those arcadey style video game pinball games with less realistic physics and more fast-paced, target-rich bullet hell action. Wait, what? Until then, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, asking you to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to my channel members and donors who helped me afford this embarrassingly large collection of pinball tables. I hope to see you next video. Toodles.
I'm not impressed. But I don't want to lose. It's not fair.